Outside the Soviet Union, more stringent precautions were promptly taken. All aircraft flying from the western part of the Soviet Union were checked for radiation. So were their passengers. Reindeer herds, which support the livelihood of the Laplanders in northern Norway and Finland, were moved out of the way of the radioactive fallout. In Britain, a major concern was radioactivity in the food chain, especially milk supplies. Sheep were also checked for radiation. Those with above normal levels were destroyed. Back at Chernobyl itself, rescue workers continued to grapple with the situation. Even with protective clothing and gas masks, they could only spend short periods of time around the number 4 reactor. Many were exposed to high levels of radiation and had to be hospitalized. 28 rescue workers would die from overdoses within the next 3 months. The main concern was that the remains of the reactor core could break through the concrete base and fall into the water below, causing another explosion. Eventually, rescue workers managed to cut their way through to the reactor building and reduce its high temperature. By then, on May 9th, 1986, the 5,000 tons of sandbagged sand, clay, and boron dropped by helicopters collapsed into a cavity formed by the burning graphite in the reactor core. Another radioactive cloud resulted. It settled on everything within the 20-mile exclusion zone around the site. Worried about the possibility of another meltdown, authorities called in miners to tunnel under the reactor. They were eventually able to remove the danger. Work then began on the construction of a huge concrete sarcophagus to encase the reactor and prevent the escape of any more radiation. It was a formidable task. Eventually, the work was completed, and Chernobyl reactor number 4 was declared safe. The other 3 reactors at Chernobyl were reactivated to meet demands for electricity. Safety procedures were now strictly enforced. The blunders that resulted in the Chernobyl disaster were blamed on the plant's director and the technicians who conducted the tests that went so terribly wrong. 6 of them were put on trial and found guilty of carrying out illegal operations and disregarding safety regulations. But it was the Soviet system, with its secrecy and disregard for safety, that was ultimately responsible for the blunders. Their legacy remains in the exclusion zone around Chernobyl that is now a wasteland. But it is the children who have suffered the most. They have experienced a marked increase in the number of thyroid cancer cases. As for Chernobyl's number 4 reactor, the sarcophagus encasing it is in danger of collapse. If it does, there will be another release of radioactivity. The Ukraine has insufficient funds to deal with the problem, but a European consortium has drawn up plans for a new concrete structure to cover the reactor. The intent is that this would make the reactor safe for thousands of years. had been problems in raising the money for it. The threat of another nuclear disaster at Chernobyl